Local activists can hold a campaign about common local species of mangrove in Malaysia. There are three types of common local species of mangrove in Malaysia, which are: the first one is Rhizophora mangle, the black mangrove. The second one is Avicennia nitida, the red mangrove, and the third one is Nipa verticans, which is the palm mangrove. This campaign can be held continuously. It can be done for university and school students. Other than that, it also can increase the knowledge about the importance of mangrove in Malaysia to them. Even though they cannot go to the mangrove and do something physically, at least they already know the importance of mangrove in their head.
As an activist, one way to spread awareness about mangroves is by creating a website to collect donation. The donation is a fundraising activity that is made to support the community-based mangrove conservation programs. The donation will be equally distributed to them so they can create more activities that can teach people about mangroves and its conservation processes. Those programs will help strengthen others' knowledge about mangroves. Apart from executing activities, they can use the money for plantations and conservation of endangered local mangroves. It is to sustain the availability of the mangroves for the next generation of citizens to explore and get extra knowledge.
As activists, things that we can do for conservation are keep coastal healthy by, firstly, volunteer for beach cleanups. If you live in a city where beaches are such an intrinsic part of life, you can volunteer for the beach cleanup drives. If you are a tourist, you can just make sure you don't litter, clean up after yourself, and pick up trash if you come across any. Besides, ask for greener policies that support our environment. We can use our voice and vote to choose public officials who will work for and not against our oceans, forests, and ecosystem. Research if your representatives are doing enough to protect marine life and demand better practices from businesses as well. We can no longer look away from how big businesses release effluents, dump waste in our oceans, and end up destroying its biodiversity. Lastly, make sustainable choices in everyday life. Harsh detergents, which we use for washing clothes, harm marine life by entering oceans through our sewer system. We can all prevent that by finding organic alternatives. Our food choices also affect marine health directly. Also, saying no to coral jewelry is a good way to show some love to the oceans. Next, another conservation method is shoreline stabilization. This includes a wide range of activities carried out at the water's edge to control erosion or prepare shorelines for development. Stabilization generally uses hardened structures built parallel to the shoreline to protect soils and unstable banks from currents and waves. Stabilization is widespread occurring on lakes, streams, and marine shorelines. Common stabilization methods include revetment, bulkheads, and seawalls. They are usually built to protect buildings that were built on a beach that is losing sand.
In my point of view as one of the activists, I think that mangrove is important for ecosystem by acting as natural essential habitat provider for most of the species, from tiny little bacteria to Bengal tigers. It all depends on mangrove. As I said before, Bengal tigers. What we all know about Bengal tigers? Okay, Bengal tigers is actually one of endangered species in the world. So we could say here that not only it provide habitat for Bengal tigers, but it also prevent extinction of this species, which this will benefit our generations in the future. And this show how important mangroves are in our ecosystem.
In my experience, one of the ways to create awareness on the conservation of mangrove is by having a face-to-face session to the mangrove area. This activity will enhance our knowledge regarding the ecosystem surrounding its neighborhood. We could see what really happened in the mangrove area in reality instead of hearing the news about it. Having this feature will be enjoyable while learning something out of it. This could be beneficial to create unlimited sustainability awareness to reduce the likelihood of environmental pollution such as water pollution.
As for me, I think distributing questionnaires in the neighborhood area also helps to identify the awareness level of the local community towards mangrove conservation. I think it is essential to develop a community based ecosystem management and development based on the community opinion. Besides, we also can gain enrich data and support data finding regarding of mangroves ecosystem.
As for conservation, it is important for our mangroves to be conserved because it is useful as food for the multitudes. They are an important feeding ground for thousands of species and support a diverse food web. To explain this, the tons of leaves which fall from each acre of mangrove forest every year are the basis of an incredibly productive food web. Some organisms will eat the leaves directly, such as crabs and also insects. As the leaves decay, the decaying material will provide nutrients for invertebrates and also algae. And this in turn will feed the small organisms such as birds, sponge, worms, jellyfish, shrimp, and also young fishes.
Other than that, we need to conserve our mangrove in order to avoid the extinction of certain species, like mudskippers. These species live in the mangrove. So, if our mangrove is polluted or abandoned, it will risk the habitat of these species. Lastly, in my point of view as a student, mangrove are also important as it is an ideal breeding background. It is ideal because most of the shelter for the fish are at the root as juveniles and forage at the seagrass beds as they grow, and they will go to the open oceans when they adult.